So let me give the introduction. Roy, since I have known you for a number of years and have seen you in action, all good, uh, and want the audience to know that this is a difficult introduction because it doesn't fall into the typical introductions we've been doing when we talk to professors, when we talk to practitioners, when we talk to educators, because in a sense, Roy doesn't fit any of those categories. And the category that he fits is a rather unique one. And so let everybody know that we are going to be talking with someone who has been featured in the major series of books that many of you have heard called Chicken Soup for the Soul. And Chicken Soup for the Soul is basically stories of life, love, and learning that Jack Canfield started almost 25 years ago. And since then, there are literally several hundred books that begin with Chicken Soup for the Soul. And Roy was featured at the cover of one of them after he was featured as a writer. His story, briefly stated in one of the books, which is Chicken Soup for the Soul for Extraordinary Teens. And we'll get into the specifics of some of that most briefly. But if you're interested, you can get the book. It's available through Amazon.com. I just checked on it this morning just to make sure. And so we're talking to a real life person from that book, but more importantly, a real life person that some of us have known for a number of years who's doing fantastic work with teenagers across the country as a speaker. And the other part of Roy, there are many parts here, but the other part that I just want to quickly emphasize in my intro is the fact that Roy has been homeless. He was homeless at about the age of 14 and then kind of struggled through that difficult period and back into school, got to college, graduated from college, and then something happened. He became homeless again. But the second time was homeless by choice. And so, with that kind of an introduction, you may be wondering who on earth this person is. So, let me begin by just asking Roy, who are you? What are you? What has happened? How did that happen? How did you get out of it? What is it we should know about you in just a few minutes or less? But basically, introduce yourself better than what I have done.
Well, Doc, thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, my name is Roy Juarez Jr., originally from San Antonio, Texas, currently Los Angeles. Who am I? I'm just another human being who is trying to make life a little better than when he found it. It was nothing that I planned. It was all serendipity. It was just me trying to understand what happened to me, trying to pull my family back together, trying to give my younger siblings good memories so that it wasn't all tragic from the beginning. And so nothing special, just trying to help young people not experience or who have experienced the pain that I've experienced to understand that life does get better and we can be the change that we want to see.
And so, what do you do now after all that?
Well, Dr. Noboa has shared a lot about you, and I know more about him through you. I heard also that you have a connection to a dear friend of ours, Consuelo Cakebush, who we have been in forums with and in conference with and in panels with. So we come a long way, okay? So I am so happy that you also share, we share then that connection, okay? Uh, it would be good for you to tell us a little bit more about how you overcame some of these challenges, some of these things that happened to you. I mean, you've been through an experience that was a difficult experience.
Right.
I'm myself a youth worker and a street worker, and I'm, into community more than academia, even though I'm an academic too, but into community. And your kinds of experiences are extremely helpful to people like myself when I am able to talk to people in school districts, in communities, and say, well, some folks have done these remarkable things and they have overcome these challenges. What can you tell us about those challenges? What can you tell our audience about that? Mhm.
In 2000, um, 2010, there was an estimated 1.6 million homeless youth in America. Right before the pandemic, there was 2.1 million. So we went the wrong direction. And so I don't know how that happened, but there is so much need in our nation. And I never sought out to be an activist. I never thought, I'm going to go become a motivational speaker and I'm going to go advocate for these issues and I'm going to go try to help as many kids as I've helped. Um, it was really just a way of me giving back. So if I could just take you back for a second, I first became homeless at the age of 14, eventually with my 9-year-old sister and 2-year-old brother due to domestic violence. And so I was able to find homes for my siblings to stay in, but no one would take me in. So I ended up living out of a backpack for 2.5 years, just couch surfing, being a street kid, getting food wherever I could find food. So there was a moment you speak about our connection with retired Lieutenant Colonel Consuelo Castillo Kickbush. I was in Dallas, Texas. I was a street kid. I was hungry. And I thought, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to find food tonight? And I saw this huge hotel, and I'm like, you know what? They got to have food in that hotel because it's huge and it's nice, right? There's food in there. One way or another, there's food. So I sneak into this hotel, and I'm looking around, and I see this line of women about to go into this room, and I know that there's going to be food in that room. They're probably having some type of conference or banquet or something to that nature. And sure enough, I sneak in. They're having a banquet. It's this organization called Feud, Federally Employed Women. I didn't know it at the time. I know it now. And I sit in the far back corner because I'm going to take this meal and I'm going to leave. But I sit in the far back corner because I didn't want anyone to notice me. Because as a homeless kid, I learned quickly that if I was invisible, that I got to stay longer. But no kid, no young person should ever have to feel that they need to be invisible to stay. That's not right. And so that night when they serve me my food and I'm eating, this woman comes out to speak and she starts talking about her life and how she had overcome all these issues and she grew to be the highest ranking woman in the combat support field of the United States Army. And I thought to myself, if she can do it, why not me? And at this point in my life, I was a high school dropout. I had dropped out of high school because I never knew where I was going to live, how long I would be in that area. I couldn't make it to school. I didn't know at the time. For today, we have like the McKinney-Vento law that will help kids like me, but I didn't know anything or had any access to any type of help at that age that I knew of. And so it was at that moment that I thought, why not me? That my life changed because I went back to San Antonio. I got my siblings, and I said, you know what? Even if I don't have a good life, they're going to have a good life. And so I made sure that they were going to be in school, that they were going to graduate, that they were going to go to college, that all their dreams were going to come true. But the ministers that I had approached to try to live in their church so that I could do all this said, Roy, you're not going to live here in this church. You'll live with us, but you have to go back to school. So while I was dreaming big enough for my siblings, I still didn't believe it for myself. It wasn't true for me. So it took someone else to see and believe and pour hope into me to say, okay, maybe I can do it too. And so I think that even with my work, so I'm not officially an educator, but I come with lots of lessons. And I come with life lessons that need to be heard because kids don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And if you really want to get to them, they got to know that you're there for them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dean.
And Roy, so how do you reach this group at this point and engage them and work with them? But what is it that you can offer to them? What is it that you even say to them?
So,
That's a tough turn to make.
right, right. And so my hope is that I inspire change. I don't believe that I'm bringing change. I don't believe that I can create change. I can just inspire change because it has to come from within that kid or that student. And so the only thing I knew how to do was tell my story. So when I graduated from Hardin Simmons University in 2009, I had moved to Las Vegas because the same lady I heard speak in that hotel, I became my mentor and then eventually became my boss at the time. And so I moved from Abilene, Texas to Las Vegas, Nevada for my first job after graduating college. And I'm there for about 3 months before she calls me in her office and she's like, Roy, she said, I want to let you know that you have 3 months left with my company and I'm going to let you go. And I thought, you're gonna fire me? Like, what did I do wrong? And she says, Roy, she goes, you can't work for me. She says, you're not meant to work for me. She said, you have 3 months to save money and go do whatever it is that you think that you're supposed to do. But I'm telling you right now, it's not working for me. And so I was upset because I thought, because I didn't know any better, I thought if I just graduate from college, life is going to be better. It's going to fix everything, which was so far from the truth because we're always going to have to fight for our future and for our dreams. But that at that time in my life, I decided, you know what, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Or what am I going to do for my next step? And so I decided that I would live homeless for the second time. And the reason I thought that was this. I said, you know what, there's no way that I would have made it this far if it wasn't for all the families who fed me, who housed me, who clothed me. I didn't make it here alone. No one makes it to the top alone. And I said, you know what, before I go work in corporate America and use my business degree and because I was going to go back to corporate, I was going to go to corporate America, make a lot of money because I never wanted to be homeless again. So I said, before I do that, I need to do something to say thank you in honor of them. And the only thing I could come up with was all I had was my story. So I said, I'm going to live homeless again, but this time it's by choice, not my parents, not my situation. It's my choice. And I'm going to do it for 6 months and I'm going to live out of my car and I'm going to drive from LA to Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm going to speak at any high school, middle school, shelter organization, any place that would open up their doors. And I'm going to go find those kids that are like me. And I'm going to tell them, don't give up. Life gets better, but you have to be here to see it. But life can get better. And education is one of those ways. And so I started that journey in Los Angeles, South Central LA. But about 3 months into that 6 month journey, I saw America through a lens that not many people have seen. And what I saw troubled me to my core because I thought, when I knew we had issues in our country, but we have issues. We have major issues. And I ended up saying, you know what? I can't just cross this country. There's so much need. I got to do more. So I ended up living out of my car for 2.5 years, circled the entire country, and spoke to over 100,000 kids. And that's what started my life as an activist because I've never stopped. I still crisscross this country trying to find kids. And I use my story as a way to help them see and shift their mindset and try to inspire them to create the changes needed in their life, for them to be better instead of bitter, for them to understand the value of education, for them to understand what mentorship is and how to apply those tools that the mentors are showing them so that they don't become another statistic like I was supposed to be. And so I know that we've done like research to where we've hired a statistician or to evaluate my programs or my keynote presentation. But those are just the numbers. When I see the line of students and teachers that are standing there to talk to me after a presentation, sharing what they've been through, or when I get the letters from kids on social media that are telling me, sir, I'm graduating now. Like, it's like, you know what? We always say the cliche thing, oh, if just one. I mean, we want to reach more than one. But I know for sure that there's just one out there. And that's good enough for me.
Wow. And you wrote a book by that same
I
title,
did.
Homeless by Choice.
Mhm.
Homeless by Choice, a memoir of love, hate, and forgiveness.
You know what's really interesting in this conversation is that, and very commendable that you did this, is that schools today, particularly educating our young people, our previous speaker in one of the podcasts was talking about cariño, preparing teachers
Right.
to really care. Okay, you seem to have called out teachers for not necessarily reaching out to students in an appropriate way, because this austerity in education that we have today turns teachers into these cold folks that sometimes
Hmm.
push kids out rather than bring them in to the process of growing and learning and becoming themselves.
And
What can you tell us
and I
about
would
that?
and I would say I definitely would not want to call out
Mhm,
teachers, because if anyone's the hardest
mhm,
working ones, it's the teachers. The people that I would call out, if I must, is the community, because it's like we send our kids to school, but it's more of a babysitting type of situation. And I think we saw that during the pandemic when parents had to become the teachers, and then they were like, "Wait, open up these schools because we need our kids to go back." So it's not the teachers. I think, if anything, I feel bad for our teachers because they get what we call compassion fatigue, and they are working so hard and they care so hard that they get tired. And that's what I feel bad for our teachers. I think that we don't support them. We don't pay them what they deserve. We make stupid people famous is what happens in this country. And that is a big issue that we have. When we should make teachers famous. We should pay teachers what they deserve, not athletes, not actors and actresses. You know, Teachers should get that. So I don't call out teachers, I call out the community for being the root cause of the major issues of that our kids are having, because we like to labelize it and be like, "Oh, I'm pro this, I'm pro that," but we put no work towards it, and that's where the issue lies.
When you say, Roy, you call out the community, uh, what exactly does that mean? What can we do as community members ourselves in terms of fostering that, bringing
Right.
in that inclusiveness, and bringing them in ways that maybe we have not in the past? What does that really
Yeah.
mean?
And I don't want to sound like bitter, but I mean, I get when I started the Homeless by Choice tour, my thought was this: this is a great cause. People are going to be there to support it. I'm going to try to find and help kids. It was like pulling teeth to get help. So I had no grants, no sponsors. And I was begging people, "Can you please give up one drink at the bar tonight and send it to me so I can use it for gas to get to the next city, the next school?" I had nothing. I was sleeping in my car. Like, if no one would take me in to sleep on their couch. And I saw the community, the majority of them, not all of them, because if you look hard enough, you'll find the heroes. You'll find the heroes and the sheroes in this world. But you have to look really hard. And why does it have to be that way? Why do we have to look hard to find the heroes and the sheroes? If anything, it should be reversed. We should have to look hard to find the bad ones, because everyone's giving so much. Like, there's a problem with this mentality. It doesn't know. I What I've learned through my work is people don't care unless it directly affects them. And we don't look outside ourselves to check in on each other. You know, there is five of us. Five. I have five siblings. I have eight uncles and aunts at that time. How does five kids become homeless when you have eight uncles and aunts? Like, what did they think every holiday when we weren't sitting there? Now, I get it. My uncles and my aunts at the time were younger. But as an uncle myself, that now I'm like, "Mija, are you okay? How's everything at home? Do you love yourself? How can uncle be a better uncle to you?" And I'll be honest, I miss it too. I'm just as flawed and human as everyone else. My niece's birthday was August 29th. Mine's August 30th. I was so consumed with my own birthday that I didn't call my niece. And she sent a text to her mom, my sister, and she said, "Uncle didn't call me for my birthday." And I felt horrible because I was like, "Roy, you let her down." She felt it. And so I text her and she called her. She didn't answer. So I text her, right? I knew she would answer text, this generation. And I said, "Baby," I said, "Uncle failed." I said, "Uncle was dealing with issues emotionally and mentally that I failed you as an uncle. And I'm very sorry. You need to know that you mean the world to me and that I love you very, very much. and I'm very sorry that I didn't call you on your birthday. Now, maybe to some, that's like, well, you just didn't call her. Just call her the next day. But to her, it was so much deeper than that. And so if I didn't make it right, she would forever have this scar on her heart that she didn't matter as much. And that is not the case. She matters. She matters a lot. Uncle's just broken, and he allowed his brokenness to lead that day, and I failed. But it's okay, because I'm going to own up to my mistake, and I'm going to apologize. And I think that as a society, we fail to see what's happening around us. The only time we see it is if it directly affects us or if it bothers us. Then we want to deal with it because it bothers us.
Yeah. It's interesting because my birthday was yesterday, so great people have close by birthday. You know, you talk about the issues of community, and I mention and I talk about teachers. Okay, I'm an educator, and I know teachers well. I mean, 50 years doing
Yeah,
this stuff, you get to know them. I'm totally for teachers, supporting them, working with them, everything related to their well-being. I still know that we have a problem with many teachers not caring enough, okay, because of the system
right,
and how it works. I
right,
also fully agree with you that community, has not become of age in supporting its members. When Dean and I travel to other countries, we find a whole different scenario. Okay, and I found it in Latin America, people supporting folks and stuff like that. But it doesn't happen in some of our urban centers. It's crazy,
right.
and it should not be. What is your message to folks like that? We can go around preaching and doing everything that we want, and people like me do it all the time. But it's
Right.
I sort of like feel frustrated. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Something is happening here. Why are they not there fighting for themselves? What do you have to say about that?
If you want to keep your country,
Mhm.
our kids need to be
Yeah.
educated. In 2012, I was invited by the United States Army to go meet with a bunch of generals. They were calling me and about 30 other people that were with me COI, Center of Influences. And we were sitting there with all these generals, and they said, look, some countries have more students in their advanced classes than we have kids in school. There is no way we will maintain a superpower with the level of dropouts that we
Mhm.
have. So if you want to lose your country, then stay seated and don't do anything. Don't get involved. We need to create partnerships with our communities and our schools and not put it off to someone else to say, oh, well, they do it. Well, there's that organization. No, it starts with you. You have to be part of the solution. If not, then you're part of the problem. You're part of the issue because our kids need to be educated. If we want life to change, education is one of the sure ways.
And Roy, are you seeing an increase in the number of homeless youth over time? As you see this trajectory, because you've been working on it
Mhm.
for a while, uh, I mean, you talk about when you were 14, now you're much more than 14. Uh,
A lot more.
and my birthday's next week, so we're all Virgos too on top of that.
Next
Next
week,
week.
doctor's birthday. Noted.
So in a sense, I I I get concerned about, okay, so what can we do individually, what can we do collectively, but also
Right.
what's happening or what's missing here, because as a prosperous countries, this should not be happening. We should be talking about
Exactly.
this as
And I think that we may be a prosperous country, but we're a very broken country. We're very broken as a society, as humans. And that is why we're constantly trying to just feed ourselves so that we can even feel better about ourselves. It's and you know what? Maybe my view is jaded or skewed because of the work that I do. The realms that I put myself in. Like maybe that's why my view might be a little skewed. But you're right, Tony. It is exhausting. It is exhausting. Um, but I'm not going to give up the fight. And don't get me wrong. There's There's beautiful things throughout this country. There's beautiful things. Um, but when you're having to fight to find them, there's an issue.
Yeah, it seems also that American individualism contributes a lot to how we are disgruntled and fragmented and all of that, rather than this idea that some of us have been pushing about this collectiveness that we need to promote,
Right,
this unitary approach
right.
to changing situations that are not good enough. That's
I mean, we see it even just as
yep,
Latinos. We separate ourselves. Oh, no, I'm not Mexican. I'm Puerto
exactly.
Rican. Oh, no, I'm Mexican, but I was born here. I'm not from over there. Like, we break ourselves apart, and we want to know why we can't get the help or as Latinos that we want to get, because even within our own people, we segregate ourselves instead of helping each other and being there for each other.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I
Well,
just get
you get
you guys.
excited
You guys got me
and
going this
you
morning.
just get excited and you go into this mode of fighting for what is fair, for what is just. And I sympathize with that. I really do. I think that we need to do more of that. Now we have this pandemic, okay?
Right.
And this pandemic has sort of like teach us all a lot, because it has
Yeah.
exacerbated this individualism, and it has exacerbated the the differencing. Okay, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to take care of myself and nobody else. Okay, that appears to be a problem. I think that you probably are confronting that. What, this idea of learning laws, etc., putting the guilt, the blame on students and young people, especially on young people. All of that. What is your reaction to what we need to do these days is with this pandemic? How do we keep it together?
I think that my mentor,
Mhm.
uh, retired Lieutenant Colonel Consuelo Castillo Kickbush,
Mhm.
put it the best. We're human beings, but where we fail at is being human.
Mhm.
That's where we fail.
Mhm.
Because you're right. During this pandemic, it was like for many, it was I have to get mine. I'm going to survive. I'm going to get mine. For me personally, I had what we were told to have 6 months worth of payroll, 6 months worth of paying your bills, blah 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 blah. I had all of that for my company. And during the pandemic, I could have fired my team and lived my life as normal for the next year and a half. But I was like, I can't let them go. They have families. They're my team. They have supported this work. They're the reason why I'm able to get out there and reach so many young people. So I got rid of all my subscriptions. I got rid of everything. I got rid of my car. I got rid of everything. Moved into my best friend's spare bedroom to pay cheaper rent to try to survive this pandemic so that I didn't have to lose anyone. Thank God I didn't have to let anyone go. But it was tough. It was extremely tough. But I had other speakers tell me, dude, just fire them. Just fire. I mean, if it was between them and me or my family, I would just fire them. And I think that's the mentality that many have taken. I'm going to try to get as many of these eggs as possible, and only I'm going to eat them, and no one else is. And now, because of greed, we find ourselves in the situation that we are, especially those way at the top. Way at the top. It's all greed.
You have started a company called Impact Truth now for over a decade, I believe. What does it do? How does it fit into this picture?
So, Impact Truth, we're a human development company. Uh, it started off with just me being a keynote speaker doing workshops. During the pandemic, we grew. We now represent about 10 other speakers um, who have the stories and have the heart to try to inspire change. And every single one of us, our stories are different. From from suicide prevention to teen dating violence to working with educators, inspiring them. I when I was in high school as a homeless kid, for some odd reason, I made my email impacttruth at yahoo.com. And I've had this email since high school. When it came time to my company, and I'm trying to think what's going to be my name. What's going to be the name? And I said to my assistant at the time, "What about Impact Truth?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't like it." He goes, "Well, you know what?" He goes, "Sell it to me, Roy. Sell it to me. Why Impact Truth?" I said, "Because it's our goal. It's our core values. We want to create impact, but we want to do it in truth. Truth in every aspect. The information we put out, the way we do our business dealings, impact truth. It's who we are." And he's like, "Yeah, you sold me. That's what it is. Let's do it." And that's how Impact Truth came about. And so I've been crisscrossing this country for over 15 years, a million students, educators, parents since, just crisscrossing. Recently, Tony, you had brought something up, so I grabbed a book from behind me. Um, Recently, and I'm trying to think of why I grabbed this book. So recently, I opened up a publishing company, right? Impact Publishing, and we're gonna probably cut this piece out because my brain went somewhere, and I can't remember where it went when it came to this book.
But you started a children's book series,
I did.
with,
I
as
did.
part of that. You know.
Well, the reason the books came about was I remember waking up one morning and thinking it's not enough. I felt like we're losing the battle. Like it's not enough. It's not enough. So I called Reggie, who now runs the publishing company, but at the time she was an intern. And I called Reggie. I said, "Reggie, I'm going to write a book and you're going to help me." She's like, "Okay." I said, "I'm going to just start writing. I'm going to just start writing. You're going to start editing. And if something doesn't make sense, let me know." And so I started writing because my thought was this: maybe, maybe if the book can get somewhere into people's hands, this will be an extension of the work. This will help motivate them in other ways. Because it wasn't enough for me to just go from school to school to school to school. And I know I'm not the only speaker. We're all in this together. You know, in the speaker world, there's a lot of competition, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of stealing, which is horrible because the majority of them are out there preaching values and this and that, and it's all hot air. It's crap. You know, it's stupid. And we're supposed to be on the same team, fighting to create the same. There's so much work out there, but again, people just want to collect their little eggs and not share them. There's plenty out there. There's plenty. We have to be there to help each other if we want something for the greater good.
And what I'm seeing also, from a macro perspective, is
Mhm.
a shift, a change, in young people today, in the midst of a war that we just finished, in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a resurgence of racism, in the midst of immigration problems, in the midst of 10,000 other things happening all at once. Uh, it's got to be, and I'm wondering, okay, so what are the young people, and you're much closer to this than we are, but what's the mind of the young people today? Because these are major shifts, and I see the country in major conflict and major
Yes.
turmoil. And I keep thinking, my gosh, how much of that is being absorbed by our children?
And that's a great way to put it, absorbed, because I think our kids are so optimistic because they haven't been jaded yet and their hearts haven't been hardened. They haven't got to a point where they thought, you know what, this is the way life is. They still see that they can create change, and that is a beautiful place to be. And we have to help them on those journeys. But there comes a point when someone gets tired, and then they just accept they're not there, and that's awesome. It's just like the teacher who's been teaching for 20 years. Are they, and they're tired? Are they a bad teacher? Absolutely not. Are they a bad person? Absolutely not. They're just tired.
It's interesting that you raise this issue. I mean, we were young people too. I mean,
Yes.
50 years ago, I was, you know, the Roy type, you know, you know, and I was in the Young Lords. Could you imagine the Minister of Education at the national level, and all of that, and we did certain kinds of things that help us at that historical moment to open up some doors and do some things. And now we look at this new young generation of people, And I like you, I do a lot of speaking to young people. I talk to them about this connection between what we happen to know about the past and what's new now. They have to take the reins. They have to keep on going, right? And we want to do that. We want to push that. But I have observed, like Abdi maybe, a certain level of comfort by the very same people that we empower during our time. So, like, let's say bilingual education. As a bilingual education, I got a whole mess of doors open for bilingual scholars, bilingual teachers, and now they make a whole mess of money and they marry them on each other. It is like a comfort, and then when you go to them, it's like pulling teeth, to be able to do that. These speakers that get around the country, it's become also a comfortable thing of going around, like you said, and going at each other and trying to keep their little income, going,
Yeah,
etc. But it so happens that they are not necessarily empowering and equipping young folks to take the reins. They just come and
right,
talk to people and they leave. Okay.
right.
What's, we're having this conversation. What's your reaction to that?
It is. It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's horrible. I think. I mean, I get
Mhm.
it. Life sets in. You create a family. You now have a mortgage. You have car payment. You want to take a vacation. I get all that. Um, and that's not bad. It's not bad to enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's not bad to enjoy life. Don't get me wrong. That's not bad at
Mhm.
all. It's just really hard when there's still so much need out there. There's so much need, and if you can't do it, that's fine. Support someone who can. If that's still part of your inner core of the whatever you were fighting for when you were younger. A lot of times you now have children, you have grandchildren. That's still inside of you. Yeah, maybe you can't do it, but support someone who can. So for me, it's like, who's going to be not necessarily my successor, because I'm nobody, to be honest with you. There are plenty of Roys out there fighting just as I'm fighting. That's great. I always said I would love one day to have a huge conference of like 50,000 people. That'd be amazing. And I would love to just stand on stage and look at everyone. No one has to know my name because it's not about me. No one has to know my name. I just want to see them and be like, I can rest now. I can rest and then leave. And no, who cares? People say, well, what? And this may be horrible, but people are like, Roy, so what legacy do you want to leave? I said, I don't really care about a legacy, to be honest with you. I said, because I'm going to be dead. Why do I care? I ain't going to know. If anything, then I want to live this legacy now and impact lives while I have this short amount of time. Who gives a crap about legacy? You know, I don't. I'm going to do my best, and that's all you're going to get from me is my best. That's all I have to give you is the best that I can give you, and that's it.
Thank you.
In closing, I'm not sure how to close this process because
It's hard to do a lot of talking that we have to do.
there's so much there, Roy, and thank you for that. And a lot of thought behind it, and a lot of experience behind it, and hard knocks
I,
on top of it.
if I can say this, Doc, before I need the audience to know that I love my family very much. I was homeless, yes. I was broken, yes. But parents are human, and parents make mistakes. They're human. My mom was broken in her life. Her parents were broken in their life. We become products of this brokenness if we allow it to. But that's the power of education. Education can break those ties so that we're not a puppet in someone's brokenness. And that is why education is so important. And if we can help kids understand that and help kids be educated, that they too can cut those ties from the brokenness that was placed on them. And that is why it is so important that we all step up and that we all come together because it changes everything.
And I was thank you because I was going to tie it back to education. Uh, but if I was to ask you, Uh, what would you say to young people today as a critical message, as something for them to think about, given all that we have said so far? Um, what is it that they should know about who they are, what they are? What is it that they should know about their place in this world? What would you say?
Two things. One, never get to a place in life where your heart is so hard that you stop caring about other people and you stop caring about yourself. Never go there in life. Two, don't make it about you. See the people around you. And the reason I say that is this. On social media, I was scrolling the other day, and I came across this post of a young man at his grandfather's funeral. And excuse me, and the first picture is him putting dirt on his grandfather's funeral, on his casket. And I saw that there were several pictures attached, right? So I started swiping through the pictures. And every picture was a picture of this kid. Not one picture of his grandfather. And I thought, wow, you're saying, rest in peace, Grandpa. But every picture is about you. That's very telling. Every picture is about you, not your grandfather. So are you really posting about your grandfather, or are you posting about yourself? Don't become a selfish person. See those around you.
Thank you, Roy and Tony. Let me pass the baton to you in terms of any perspectives, concluding statements, given all that we've been talking about.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate so much your comments, Roy. I think that those of us that have been involved from the community perspective have experienced very much what you're talking about. I mean, it's like pulling teeth to get people to help us. In Milwaukee, in the Midwest, my gosh, I have to, I sometimes defend our folks, and then I go like, why don't you defend yourselves? Why don't you do something about yourself? I'm not going to be around. I'm going to die one of these days. What's going to happen to you, right? So
Yeah,
it's this constant struggle of making sure that we reach that balance of conscious teachers that help us do more caring and learning and growth, and community folks that help, that contribute. The mutual aid societies in the 1930s in the Mexican communities taught so much. Sociedades mutualistas, where people got together and did things. The idea that you need a village to raise somebody
right,
is like we've been losing that unless we go back and get it again. This individualism grows as opposed to stopping. So we need people like you, and we need people that continue to educate ourselves and the people around us, ser más cariñosos, they can embrace people and embrace the idea that we can make the world better for us. And I think you brought
that's right.
us that today in your comments. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. I know that sometimes my words get a little passionate, but it's because it's what
You're
I am, and I might
developing
not have all
too.
the words. I might not have all the words to use in my toolbox, so it might come out as that's stupid, but that's just because I couldn't find the
Hey,
right
that's
word
my
I was trying to
favorite word,
describe.
stupid. Okay, so don't worry.
Passion is critically important. If you don't have passion, you don't have feeling. And if you have
Yep.
feeling, you're missing the life. So thank you, Roy.
Thank you, and community. I love you all. It's not an attack to you. I just see the kids that are hurting, and that's what breaks my heart, and that's where that passion comes from. I just want to help them.
And that's what it's all about. Thank
Well,
you, Roy.
thank you.